It looks like we have quite a number of folks online now, so I think we'll start to dig in. So a few quick logistics. Tonight's panel is being recorded and will be available later this week on the partnershipsfordowntown.org website. If you are in need of closed caption, you can find the button in the bottom center of your screen. Tonight's panel format will be conversational in nature. Our panelists will be sharing their experiences from a variety of settings, all involved in place management and business improvement districts. As the Rochester community continues to learn more about business improvement districts, one essential point is that no two bids are alike. We view this as a huge opportunity to make something that is unique to our downtown core. We're eager to hear more over the next hour about the fascinating programs and offerings that our panelists are undertaking and gain some inspiration and insights to show the sheer diversity of bids, how they operate and innovate. Tonight, I'd like to welcome Jessie Kline, Assistant Director of the Auburn Downtown Bid in New York. Welcome, Jessie.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Gerren Price, President and CEO of the Downtown DC Business Improvement District. Welcome, Gerren.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Megan Vidler, owner of Home Green Home and board treasurer of Downtown Ithaca Alliance in New York. Hi, Megan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome. And Jeremy Waldrup, President and CEO of Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks, glad to be here.
So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. As Rochester explores the potential for a bid in our downtown, we're hoping to learn more about all the other business improvement districts that are around our country. And the four of you represent that diversity. May I ask each of you to tell a little bit about yourselves, the communities you serve, and then share a little bit about how your bid operates and some of the programs it offers. Jessie, can we start with you?
Sure. So I'm the Assistant Director for Auburn Downtown Bid. I've been on board with the organization for about 13 years. My role, I do special events, programs, promotions, marketing and communications. And I also manage public art projects. In downtown Auburn, we've installed murals, mosaics, banners, signage, and sculptures. Our organization is funded by the city's assessment tax, which is paid by our property owners in the district. And we also, we've been incorporated since 2001. Before that, we were a partnership, which started in 1993. And we've got 4 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. Our stakeholder group is eateries, breweries, cultural attractions, lodging, boutique retail, banking, grocery, health and wellness, and business and government services. We also contract with the city of Auburn to run the new Equal Rights Heritage Center, which is a first stop for our visitors coming into town. We've got an information desk, interactive exhibits about equal rights in the New York State, local art displays in the Taste New York market. We also host events and workshops, rallies, and the summer Saturday markets, which showcase our local artists and food producers. The building also houses the bid offices as well as the offices for the Cuyahoga County Office of Tourism. So that's a good collaboration and having that collab workspace together. Courtney Casper is one of our staff members, and she administers for the Historic Sites Commission, which is a consortium of all of our museums, our attractions, historical resources, as well as different reps from like the bid, the chamber, and the school district. And we work together on programs and marketing and promotion. And we're actually funded by the city, and we've worked together since 2010. One of our other bid programs is Flower Power. We fill and maintain 120 self-watering ground pots in the downtown district, as well as hanging baskets in the city parks. We also address downtown litter and trash, very sexy, and select snow removal and assist with like seasonal street decor. We offer like downtown gift certificates, which are redeemable at 50 local downtown businesses. You can reuse them multiple times, and they make obviously great gifts. A lot of local employers buy them for their employees for like the holidays. We also created the Auburn Art Trail. So it's about a dozen downtown installations that we've helped fund and promote. We also do about 20 annual events, special events, ranging from First Fridays to parades, summer concerts, and festivals. And we partner with lots of different local agencies and organizations in those efforts, and offer vendor workshops. So we make sure that we have a diverse number of participants in our programs. As well as like other promotions with the downtown retail, Small Business Saturday, holiday decorating contests, and the like. And we also serve as a liaison with our city to educate our businesses and visitors about parking, additional funding resources, and, like restaurant, cafe permits, different things that they need to know about. So we liaison with businesses on those fronts. So that's a snapshot of what we're doing.
That's an amazing snapshot that you got.
Thank you. I hope that's what you're looking for to share.
Absolutely. And that's a lot. 2001.
Little nuts and bolts.
Incredible. Gerren, can you share a little bit about your community and yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again for having me here today. My name is Gerren Price, and I'm the president and CEO of the Downtown DC Business Improvement District. And so greetings from the heart of the nation's capital here. If you've never been to DC, and hopefully you have been, if not, shameless plug, you ought to come and pay it a visit. We're just north of the National Mall, just east of the White House. And it's funny, Kathy, you said in the beginning, no two bids are the same. And that is like so true. But just hearing what Jesse described, a lot of those services that you mentioned are things that we also engage in, but perhaps the scale is a little bit different, just we're a little bit larger in size. All in, we're about 138 blocks in our central business district in downtown DC, represents about 1 square mile. And within that, we represent about 40% of the city's jobs, and we represent close to 65% of the city's commercial office retail buildings, so commercial office buildings. We have 526 properties total. We're home to the Capital One Arena, which is where our basketball and hockey teams play and host a number of big concerts and entertainment opportunities for folks. We also have our Washington Convention Center, more than 8 theaters and performing arts venues, tons of museums, 150 destination restaurants, some with world-renowned chefs and amazing culinary scene here, 74 destination shopping stores. We're incredibly accessible via transit. We have actually 7 metro rail stations within our downtown core. Lots of bus lines, lots of bike options, scooter options. So very mobile city in downtown. And we typically have about 7.5 million tourists who visit our downtown core per year. And actually pre-pandemic, we were around 10 million visitors. We are hoping that that number will continue to grow as we're evolving. I would say just in terms of our the work that we do, we were founded actually in 1997 and really came about at a time when there was really significant disinvestment in the downtown core of Washington, D.C., dating back to really the riots after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. So I'm coming off of really the heels of a lot of, I would say, just negativity, disinvestment, and a downtown that really wasn't desired by many. But really in 1997 was sort of the turning point for that. And our business improvement district was a catalyst to really help push a lot of big development and sort of newfound interest in downtown that really spurned like an economic revolution here in DC. In terms of the work that we do, like our bid was really founded to supplement, government services and to much like how every bid is, to really move quickly to be nimble, to be responsive to the needs of our small businesses and also our property ownership, but really making sure that we were helping to get things done. And as you can imagine, in DC, like other big cities, there can sometimes be some red tape that prevents stuff from getting done, but really making sure that things can happen and happen well is sort of our mantra. And then in terms of the work that we do, again, very similar to what Jesse described, I would say one of the hallmarks of our work is our Clean, Safe, and Friendly program. We do operate in-house our team that we call our SAM ambassadors. So we have about 75 to 85 employees who work tirelessly 365 days a year, keeping our streets clean and addressing challenges around trash and litter, and just generally improving the public realm, removing graffiti, you name it, they're doing it and do it with so much heart, zeal, and passion. I don't know if the numbers matter much to folks, but in a year, we clear about 167,000 bags of trash and collect over 58,000 bags of recycling. So if that means anything to you, it's a lot of trash and a lot of recycling that is collected in our streets. We also manage and operate and program a 5-acre park that is in the center core of downtown DC called Franklin Park, as well as an extensive homeless outreach services arm that we have as part of our core work, as well as a service center that we operate. And then I think we play I would say a fairly unique role just in terms of the economic development, research, and support that we offer to the city, really helping to keep tabs on where the market is going, how our central business district is performing, and sort of helping inform the city to make great policy decisions. As you can imagine right now, coming off the pandemic, that is high on everybody's minds when we're thinking about the future of the city. And then we also do a lot of planning and placemaking work. So really thinking about, what is the right way to think about our city for moving forward? How can we put forth plans and galvanize the community to ensure that the downtown continues to evolve in a way that's inclusive and that really attracts people for years to come and allows them to really enjoy their experience in downtown. And in terms of placemaking, it's just all about making people's experiences memorable in downtown, creating, having great activations. We do tons of events. I think last year alone, we had about 300 different events that took place throughout downtown, and we're always looking to do more. We have a few signature programs and events. One is our downtown holiday market that we were really proud this year was named by USA Today as one of the top 10 markets in the country. So it's one of the big draws in the holiday season for us. And then we also have a separate 501c3 foundation that helps to collect charitable donations that can go towards improving our parks, supporting events, and enhancing our services around connecting people to housing. So lots going on, lots of work, but I hope I was able to capture some of that in a nutshell.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing, Gerren. One thing that, I love what you said about how it's a bid can be a supplement to government services. I think a lot of people wonder, well, why do we need a bid if we've got a government? Well, the fact that you say how it can be so nimble and responsive, where a government sometimes we know can act slowly and not always be responsive to the exact needs that the people are looking for. So thank you for that. Megan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the constituents you serve?
Sure. Thanks so much, Kathy. I'm Megan Vidler. I've served on the board of the Downtown Ithaca Alliance for 6 years, and I was just reelected to my third 3-year term. I serve as the treasurer, as well as the chair of the Business Retention and Development Committee and the Retail Committee. I own a small business located in Ithaca's bid called Home Green Home, and we sell a wide variety of eco-conscious homewares. So the Downtown Ithaca Alliance was founded in 1997 as the nonprofit organization that manages our business improvement district. Our bid is 22 blocks of Ithaca's downtown, in which property owners have agreed to pay an additional levy to fund the supplemental services and activities provided by the DIA. This bid assessment, which is the additional tax paid by the property owners, makes up about half of our annual budget. Our work is engaged in 6 principal areas: business retention development, marketing and member services, government relations, downtown operations and environment, special events, and transportation. So in each of these areas, a staff director takes lead, assisted by a committee, which is chaired by a member of the board of directors and populated by community stakeholders. So for instance, our work in the area of business retention and development is focused on things like attracting and maintaining businesses in the downtown core, seeking grant funding, and facilitating development projects. Whereas the goal of special events is to build community and provide a fun and memorable experience downtown that will encourage people to return. Across our 7 major events last year, we attracted about 200,000 people, including a record-breaking crowd of 80,000 people at our 3-day Apple Harvest Festival. And the idea is that these events will help put downtown on the map as a great destination, and then folks will want to return to shop and dine throughout the year. As a final example, our work in operations primarily focuses on creating an attractive and welcoming environment for the folks who work, live, and visit downtown. So through our partnership with the city, county, and TCAT, which is our local transit and bus system, we fund our downtown ambassadors. That includes a year-round clean team, as well as seasonal hospitality ambassadors. The clean team works 7 days a week, keeping an active presence in downtown and doing things like removing trash, maintaining bus stops, cleaning graffiti, generally keeping things tidy. And then the hospitality ambassadors work during the tourist season, answering questions, giving folks directions to businesses and activities throughout the bid. So taken together, this structure and partnership between the DIA staff and board, along with many partners throughout the city and county, allows us to execute an ambitious plan of work each year, all with the goal of creating a vibrant and welcoming downtown.
That's amazing. Megan, I think we're all going to want to move to Ithaca.
It's a great place.
Jeremy, welcome. Can you tell a little bit about yourself and your community?
Sure, thanks. So Jeremy Waldrup, I run the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. I have been in this role for almost 12 years, but previously, and somewhat related, I worked in New York City prior to moving to Pittsburgh in city government for the Bloomberg administration, and oversaw the city's relationship with what was at the time 67 business improvement districts operating there. So I got an opportunity to kind of work with very small kind of Main Street corridors up to kind of the large Midtown Manhattan bids that that do the big events that folks are aware of. But I won't go through everything that we do as an organization, because a lot of it is what you've heard. But the clean, safe, and friendly is important to us as an entity. We are also, which thinking through and kind of seeing the themes here, we're about almost 30 years old as well. So there was something happening in the 90s when cities were really struggling with how to compete with the suburbs. And what we aspire to do is really bring consensus of the 350 some odd property owners that are in our district to help advocate and advance efforts that support vibrant places. And so we do that in a number of ways. One of the things that we do that's really important to us as a downtown is think about our street network and mobility, and how folks move in and out and through our downtown. If you haven't been into downtown Pittsburgh before, we're very geographically constrained. We're kind of on a peninsula, surrounded by 3 rivers and a lot of bridges and a couple of tunnels. And so getting folks in and out of here efficiently is something that we do really well, but it's not without problems. So thinking about how our very dense street network functions and how we begin to accommodate new users like bikes and scooters, and how we make it more pedestrian friendly is an important part, and how we keep our public transportation system healthy, which frankly was not much of an issue prior to COVID, but I think something that we are all really trying to think through now, because without that network, our downtown doesn't function. We cannot park everyone in our core. So it's important to us that mode share get back up into the 50s and 60% as it was pre-COVID, or our downtown loses a lot of its luster from an accessibility perspective. We do a whole host of events. We have Market Square in the center of the city, which we program about 250 days a year. We do weekly programming, whether it's free yoga, farmers market, things like that, to really big events, like a big holiday celebration. We do a holiday market. We have a specialty food festival called Picklesburg that celebrates all things pickled, because Heinz is from here and they started in pickles. So, trying to find those themes of things that get your community excited in downtown are important to us. But it's a shared vision. It's a vision that shifts. We were talking today about things that we were really excited about in 2019, and when we'll get really excited about those again, because some of them have been put on the back burner because we are, concerned about and interested in different things now, which is kind of the joy of this model, is that you do have kind of folks who care about your downtown, who are investing in your neighborhood, both financially and with their time and their energy. And we're able to move often a bit faster than our government partners, and to help push and prod and pull them to work together in ways that we couldn't have done otherwise. So I think that's really important, because 350 voices on their own is a lot of noise. 350 voices kind of concerted around energy and activities and productivity, and not just kind of pointing fingers, because there's enough of that going on, is super powerful. So trying to wrestle that, and it's not always pretty. It can get messy at times, but it is super productive. And I think the fact that there are, a couple of thousand of these types of entities working in diverse communities around the country and North America and even worldwide speak to kind of the impact that they can make, and the importance that they're going to play, because downtowns are very different than they were 3 years ago, and we're all grappling with things in very different ways. And it takes a really collective effort and vision for these places, while also realizing that cities are different and cities are struggling. And, we're an old city with a lot of infrastructure needs. We had a bridge fall last year that was dramatic. And so, when you think about those things, it's like, well, we're complaining about broken sidewalks or streets that need to be repaved. Well, yeah, we have some big bridge problems. So how can we as our community fix those things for ourselves? They're super important. Yeah, that's us in a nutshell. But I can't speak to enough about the impact that these types of things can do if kind of unleashed and brought to fruition in communities.
Jeremy, I love what you said about bringing something that's unique to your own community. I think that's one thing that it seems like all of you have talked about, finding something that is really unique to your own. It's not like you find a bid and stick it on to a community. You find, this Picklesburg is unique to you, and the Apple Harvest Festival is unique to Ithaca. Finding something, and I think if we do something in Rochester, there are all these things that are unique in Rochester that we could draw on, and we need to hear from our community what those things are. So that's the key, I think, to that. So we'd also like to hear from you about a project or program that you've been most proud about in the last 5 years, or something that you're looking forward to in the future doing. So if you could touch on that. Does anyone want to go first on that? Is anyone thinking about something?
I can start.
Jessica.
We'll go around robin here.
Great.
At the end of 2019, Auburn was awarded from the Department of State DRI grant, funding for placemaking, public art projects. So we're embarking on three sculptures, 2 murals, and street light art panels. And this award has really helped us raise the profile of our local artists. They're enabling them to work on much larger scaled projects and with obviously larger budgets than we've been able to access in the past. And it is all local artists that we're working with on all of our installs. Several of the artists we have encouraged and led to become NWBE certified through New York State. If anyone knows funding, you have goals to meet with all of these projects, and 2 of our artists have now become certified, which is wonderful, and will hopefully lead them on to more creative opportunities. Back in 2010, we founded Art for Auburn. So that has allowed us partnerships with local artists and also volunteers in the community to create art downtown. Having the artists lead the designs and then the volunteers actually help us create these installs has facilitated a lot of civic pride and buy-in and engagement in our downtown. And this group will obviously assemble again to help us do Mosaic is one of the DRI murals, and that is happening this summer. So as a small city, we really work grassroots level, and there is a very strong network of creatives that we've tapped into. And also serving on the Finger Lakes Arts Council board. I use that as a resource as well to make more connections and relationships. Our first DRI project, we installed 40 double-sided aluminum streetlight panels that promote our city's history, culture, recreational opportunities. There were 12 designs, and they're meant to lure our visitors and residents to explore our local assets. And we worked with the Historic and Cultural Sites Commission that I mentioned earlier, and 5 local artists and 2 graphic designers. So that was our first project, and we have 5 more to finish before the summer of 2025. So so that's kind of, my pride project, and also for future, what we're looking forward to is creating placemaking in Auburn with our local artists.
Great. Well, I'm a big proponent of art, so thanks, Jesse, for sharing that. Gerren, what about you?
Yeah, Jesse, that sounds awesome. Congratulations. I know you got a lot of work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, there's so many things I'm proud of. We have an amazing team here at the Downtown DC bid, and folks are working on a lot of things. When I really reflect, like most proud of, and sort of think of the last 5 years, back in February of 2019, we opened what we call our Downtown Day Services Center, which is a basically one-stop service center for individuals experiencing homelessness to get connected to resources that really put them on a path to housing. We had always had a street outreach program where we were providing some levels of support, out in the street and responding to sometimes challenges or complaints that folks are experiencing in the street. But we really saw an opportunity to play a more impactful role in how people are moving into housing. And so this center, we serve on average about 250 folks a day. And it really serves as a one-stop shop for people's basic needs to be met. So we have showers, we have laundry facilities, there's computer access. We do a daily lunch meal. We have a health clinic on site so folks can get health checkups done. So really great sort of basic needs, and then also dedicated housing counseling services on site. And then we bring a plethora of city services there as well. So we have things ranging from employment support and counseling. We have folks who come out to assist with TANF and food stamp applications. And we even have the local DMV that'll come out and actually help folks to get their ID, and we'll actually print one on location, which has been a huge resource for folks, because that's often the first step sort of getting plugged into resources. So incredibly proud of the work of our day center. Other thing that I would just have to highlight, we in 2021 launched and reopened our sort of gem of downtown. It's called Franklin Park, which is a 5-acre park space that is actually owned by the National Park Service. And it literally took a real act of Congress. I'm not saying that to exaggerate, an act of Congress to make this happen, but in partnership with the federal government, our city government, and then the city entering into an agreement with us as a business improvement district, we now operate that space. The city contributed $21 million to renovate it. We spend about $1 million per year to maintain it and to program it. And it's been just this completely redesigned, just amazing urban green space that has brought completely new life and energy. It brought a children's play area into downtown. So the first one that we've had officially in our downtown core, tons of great green space and open space. We're able to do concerts and community events. It actually even has the first public restrooms in downtown, which has been a huge sort of win for the community. So super proud of that. Just really happy to be able to see that come to fruition. And then I think if I had to add just one more, and I'll try not to take too much time here. We, in the pandemic, as you all know, and Jeremy, you really touched on just the moment that we're in, right? We've been through a lot here in DC. When the murder of George Floyd took place, there was pretty significant civil unrest in one of our main commercial corridors, the Chinatown Gallery Place area, was hit really hard in terms of just damage to storefronts. And there were many windows that were damaged and led to them being boarded up. And we had a local arts group that approached us and said, it would be really nice to look at how we could make this space that currently feels so dreary and so sad. Everything's boarded up. And it's like telling people don't come in. Let's try to change it where people want to see this as a draw and as a real boon to the community. And so we decided to partner with them. And this was a local group called Paints Institute, led by the late John Chisholm, who was a artist himself and someone who's very passionate about the arts. And he had this network of local artists, all from our city and region, who were really eager to get involved and to express themselves in some way during what was a really challenging time for the country. And so they came out one Saturday morning, and literally it was a team of maybe 80 different artists who just began to go to town painting these plywood boards along this 4 or 5 block stretch of commercial properties. And it was amazing, just totally transformed the boards with beautiful, intricate pieces of art, total expressions. We had like all kinds of diverse folks, like of all age ranges, different racial backgrounds. It just was so beautiful to see, and was like truly an event as it happened. And then those boards stayed up really for quite some time, and it became a draw, where people were coming from all over the region just to see them and to take pictures of them and to study them and understand the artists. And what we tried to make sure could happen was that the sort of legal permitting and the permissions were all sort of squared away. We made sure each local artist had their tag sort of officially on each piece of art, and made sure artists were compensated for their time for that day and for what they ended up putting in for the day. And then we were also really excited that our National Building Museum, which is a partner museum in downtown, once the boards came down and storefronts sort of reopened, they then took those and turned it into a public art exhibit called Murals That Matter, which went on to win several awards. And it was just a beautiful way to really turn something that could have been so negative into something really empowering and enlightening for the community. And I'm just incredibly proud of that.
Oh, wow, you should be. Well, that shows the power of partnership as well. Thank you, Gerren, for sharing that. Megan, what about you?
Sure. One of our most important programs in the last few years has been co-funding the Community Outreach Worker Program. This program is funded in partnership with the city and county and administered by Family and Children's Services. The community outreach workers are trained in de-escalation and crisis intervention and provide on the street and on the sidewalk assistance to support people in need. They travel on foot throughout the downtown corridor and are well known to both the businesses within the bid and the individuals they serve on a daily basis. I have their cell phone numbers visibly posted at the front of my store in case, we see someone outside that's in distress. And it's really important to have an alternative to calling the police. And the vast majority of the time, it's more appropriate and effective to call someone that's trained in crisis intervention. And because the outreach workers have built meaningful and trusting relationships in the community, they're also able to help their clients on a day-to-day basis and not just when folks are in crisis. They ensure that basic needs are met and connect folks to services and resources, which means that problems are less likely to escalate into a situation where immediate intervention is required. And as a downtown resident and business owner, I really hope to see this program grow and gain traction and more funding in the coming years. The upcoming project I'm most excited about is the Downtown Ithaca Community Conference Center, which is set to open in early 2024. It's going to be a state-of-the-art facility, 2 stories, 15,000 square feet, 2 ballrooms, trade show space, and a full production kitchen. And seeing this project through has been a really big undertaking and has required the partnership of many entities. It's being funded with room tax revenue from across the city, with help from the Downtown Ithaca Alliance, City of Ithaca, Tompkins County, and the downtown hotels. It's going to be the largest facility like this in our region and will be a huge boon to the community and the downtown. And from a business perspective, I'm excited by the prospect of a major increase in downtown's capacity to host large events, and particularly the increased foot traffic, both year-round and during weekdays. As many of these events will take place during the work week and in the tourist off-season. So this has the potential to increase sales, hotel bookings, and restaurant reservations during times of the year that will be very meaningful to small businesses. And I'm really excited to see this project come together, sometime in the next year.
Wow, what a scope of things. Thank you, Megan. Jeremy, would you like to share?
Sure, yeah. And I feel humbled by all this awesome work that I'm hearing about from you all. So congratulations. I've been able to see some of the work that Gerren's been doing in DC and that downtown the day services center is quite amazing. And we've actually sent folks down from here to kind of learn from that model of how we can be more impactful in our work and how we work with those that are unhoused and in need. So kudos to you guys for that effort. I would have to say that the thing I'm most proud of the last 5 years would be kind of our pandemic response. You know, when you think about just downtown generally, we would have 140,000 people in our district today, and that went down to about 8,000. And that's, you know, mostly some residents and some very essential workers. So the impact to our downtown was dramatic. We do not have a large residential population similar to downtown DC. You know, very historic office, and the office market was really strong, and no one really thought much about the diversification of uses. We're definitely thinking about that now. So our effort, and, you know, I really had to give my colleagues a lot of kudos, because we just started trying, we had to be creative, right? Like, we were used to all these folks coming to our district every day. Now they're not here. What do we do? How do we support our restaurants and retailers and our cultural institutions in innovative ways when people aren't necessarily going to be coming here? So we started looking at those in need. So folks that were accessing our emergency shelter system were eating kind of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, cold cuts, like, you know, and we're like, wait, we have these restaurants. As soon as we were able to open back up, we started raising funds to buy hot meals from our restaurants and give them to the shelter. So through that, we were able to provide 9,000 meals to shelter residents from our downtown community. So we were keeping people working in jobs that they could not really do without folks coming into downtown every day. Then we started thinking about, you know, promotional campaigns, because again, folks weren't coming downtown for the things that they historically did, office, culture, sporting events. Those were not really happening. So we started raising money. We raised about $1.2 million from the public, not the public, from the philanthropic and corporate community. And we got to work. We started it was called a Downtown Community Takeout Initiative. And so we partnered with a local organization working in food insecurity, and we found where kind of there were individuals without access to healthy food, and we bought over 71,000 meals from downtown residents and started delivering through a network to our senior communities, foster care networks, places where we knew that folks were not getting access to healthy food. And that was extremely impactful to those individuals who had the access to food, but also to our restaurant community. So kind of building upon that and leveraging it. You know, we started kind of out of the gate innovating with outdoor dining when folks weren't eating inside. We transformed a number of our streets, and now we're making those changes permanent because we have a very tight cartway in our downtown. That was a monumental shift, and that would not have happened but for the pandemic. But we were able to kind of leverage that and show that interesting activated streets are what people want, and we want people, and so we're going to give them what they want. We created an outdoor stage called the Allegheny Overlook, which was overlooking the Allegheny River. We did about 3 months of programming there. We were kind of the first up for outdoor cultural events through this effort, and really supporting our nonprofit arts community who had been stuck inside doing random Zoom events, which we all remember how awkward those were, and how after the second Zoom happy hour, you're kind of like, you know, this isn't really quite the same. I don't really like this as much. But, you know, we were out there trying to create safe spaces for our community, you know, putting people first and really partnering. So I have to say that's, you know, probably what I'm most proud of. And I think where we really dug in and tried to innovate in ways that we had never really been expected to before. And it was pretty exciting, and something that we still try and like bottle that energy and like pull that out on projects now, because it was something pretty special.
Yeah, Jeremy, that's another example of, you know, how you can be nimble and responsive. It's wonderful. Thank you. So how do you and your organization ensure that through your projects and programs and your work overall, that you're creating a community where all people can feel welcome and diversity and inclusion are embraced?
Want me to?
Go ahead, Jesse. We'll just go around again.
Okay, we're gonna roll here. So with the assistance of obviously the Equal Rights Heritage Center, which we manage in our BIDS DEI committee, we've added a number of events and programs in the past few years that really celebrate diversity. We've also secured for several years, luckily, Market New York funding, which has given us, additional resources towards all these efforts. And we've actually contracted with TGW Studios for a lot of these programs and promotions. So we thank them for their good work. And obviously partner with other agencies, churches, Minority Professionals Association, AME Zion Church. This year's Market New York, we are focusing on boosting up our Juneteenth celebration. It is citywide all through the month, and we're showcasing talent like Arthur Angela Davis. We've got comedian Donnell Rawlings coming and performer Slim Stevenson. Plus we're having a downtown gala, parade, festival at our local community center at Booker T. Washington, and various other programs at the historic and cultural sites throughout the city. We also plan to unveil the life cycles of Harriet Tubman, which is 3 bicycles representing Harriet Tubman's. She settled here in Auburn and lived here for 50 years, for those that don't know that. So we're installing a DRI sculpture on a river overlook in Freedom Park on Juneteenth Day. Other events that we've boosted over the past few years is our Pride celebration. We have a themed Saturday market at the Equal Rights Heritage Center. We'll be hosting a rally, church service, and this year we're introducing a new chicken wing festival and hip hop 50th anniversary celebration for entertainment, plus various, other programs and events at the Cultural and Heritage Center. Another event that we brought online is Brave Brews. We're in our 2nd year of Brave Brews, and it's held the 2nd weekend in March, so a nice shoulder season. We start off the weekend with First Fridays, which I don't know if other communities are doing, but that has been, I've done it, I think, for 13 years since I've been on board. Every month. It's been a huge success for our community in ways that we can partner with different entities outside our designated stakeholder district. And other weekend programs, and the highlight is Fire and Ice Festival at Prison City Brewing, which is an award-winning brewery. They've got 2 locations, one right downtown in the BID, another on the outskirts. They just built a huge brewery tasting room and event space. And the festival celebrates women in the craft beverage industry. And it's obviously offers vending and music and games and fireworks, and has been a huge draw from visitors from outside our area, during our shoulder season, which, as we all know, we're always trying to boost attendance during those times. So I think offering diverse events that appeal to a diverse audience kind of ensure that we're doing our part to make sure that everyone is welcome and representing underrepresented people.
Thank you. Thanks,
Sure.
Jesse. It's like a real variety. Gerren.
Yeah, first of all, Jesse, I officially want to visit Auburn. Megan, meet up. Had me with beverages, and you said chicken. Well, I'm there. Let me know the dates. No, but on a really serious
June
note,
24th.
we go. Okay, we will be there. No, but on a really serious note, I love this question so much, and it's one that I take really personally. So I am born and raised here in Washington, D.C., and I will tell you just truthfully, growing up, there was often this spoken and sometimes spoken feeling that downtown spaces, places, events weren't necessarily for everybody, right? And there's a real, I think, responsibility that we have an organization to make sure that we are not feeding into that narrative and that we're being intentional about inclusivity. And so for us here at the Downtown DC BID, that is a top goal in all that we do. And so I feel like, some of the ways that permeates throughout, Jesse mentioned just so many of the events that they do. We really try to make sure that we're celebrating culture, that we're being really intentional around the types of programming that we're doing, and that it is things that appeal to everybody and things that are cultures and just the diverse here in our nation's capital. We're truly a global city. And so we try to make sure that's reflected in what we do. And then DC has its own sort of local music called go-go music that for many years was sort of shunned and sort of looked at as not something to be lifted up and celebrated, but we really have tried to lead some of the conversation culturally here in the city around really celebrating and elevating that music and creating platforms for our local go-go artists to be recognized and honored, and for there to be spaces where that music is a part of our central core. I also think it shows up in the way that we approach individuals who are experiencing homelessness, and really being just thoughtful in how we include everyone when we talk about community. And I think it's a prior question was asked about some things where, Jeremy, you touched on so many of the challenges of the day, really facing our downtowns, and not just for us in DC, but in many of our downtowns around the country. And our mayor, Muriel Bowser, who coincidentally is in the picture, right, to this side of me, didn't do that intentionally. She just awarded our organization a grant to lead what she's calling a downtown action agenda for DC. And so what we're looking to do is really assemble the most, best, brightest ideas and diverse range of people and stakeholders who have a passion and a vested interest in the future of downtown, and bringing them together to make sure that we can come up with a set of actions, investments, priorities that we believe are going to be really important for the mayor and city council and the private sector to really focus on. It's going to drive future investment. And we've been really intentional about, as we're sort of in the early stages of this process, this is not sort of, in days of old where you bring the developers and the folks who own property in a room and they make the decisions. This is an effort to truly be inclusive, to make sure that everyone's voices are represented at the table. And it's really been beautiful to see so far, and we're looking forward to that continuing and seeing what the final product is.
Yeah, I think that's something that's on everyone's mind, especially here in Rochester, as we think about a bid. Who is going to be at the table to make those decisions about what are the services going to be, and what is it going to look like? What is our bid going to look like? And I think it's really important to know that everyone is going to be represented here.
Absolutely.
And the choices that are going to be made are going to be for everyone. So how about you, Megan?
Yeah, it's really important to us that downtown Ithaca feels like a place for everyone in our community. Over the last few years, especially, DIA staff and board have been actively working to build diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility into our core work and policies. Within the organization, the DIA revisited its hiring policies and has implemented protocols like standardizing interview questions to ensure that each interview offers the same opportunity to provide information, and doing things like not requiring college degrees for entry-level positions if the applicant can demonstrate experience through other means, like their work history and lived experience. Early last year, the board approved a wide array of practices and policies like these in a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, but we also recognize that our work in these areas is just beginning. One thing that's tricky is that because half of our bids funding comes from the additional tax paid by property owners, those property owners make up 51% of the seats on our board. And then most of the other seats are filled by those who own businesses within the bid. And so our board is made up of a good mix of ages and genders. Pop up on my screen. Sorry about that. Right. So our board is made up of a good mix of ages and genders, but we're still undeniably the ownership class. And unfortunately, in a society built on systemic racism, that means that folks of color have historically been excluded from the ownership class. And so we're trying to help change that through some key partnerships with community organizations, namely Black Hands Universal and Business Leaders of Color. Black Hands Universal Market is held downtown every Saturday through the summer and provides a venue for emerging entrepreneurs to showcase their talent and offerings. And then expanding on this, the DIA is now seeking USDA grant funding for a BIPOC retail incubator program, again, in partnership with Black Hands Universal and Business Leaders of Color. And so our hope is to provide support, resources, and mentorship to entrepreneurs from marginalized communities looking to start or grow their businesses. And our goal really is to create a supportive environment that's led by those community organizations where we can share our resources to help business owners overcome the barriers that they might face, due to systemic racism and a lack of access to resources. And so, we recognize that this is a beginning step, and that we aim to make strides towards a more level playing field and promote economic empowerment.
Thank you, Megan. So important to look at the situation and try to change it for what it is. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, really powerful work, and it's something that us too, as a white-led organization and similar structure with your board, which is kind of legislatively mandated that you have to have X, Y, and Z represented. We too have had to dig deep and do more as an organization, from policies like over 50% of the musicians that we hire a year will be non-white. That's moving in directions of kind of creating spaces that are inclusive just by participation and making sure that we are very intentional in that. It's very easy to just get stuck in the same, oh, we're going to hire this guy because he shows up and we pay him $150 to play his guitar. But if that's not representing the community that we want, how do we dig in on things like that? Also, commitment to kind of public art. We have a pretty big public art effort, and ensuring that we are creating space for Black art in our downtown is super important. We are not as diverse as we need to be for a 21st century city, and we have to collectively as a community work really hard to overcome that challenge and be better, and actually be more than better. We need to outperform our peer cities in that way, because we have some catching up to do. And so that's something that we talk about at all of our meetings. We too run a number of efforts to diversify the vendors that we work with for our markets. We have a Black market, which is a holiday market that we run specifically for Black-owned businesses here in Pittsburgh. We do that for multiple weekends during the holiday season. We have an event called World Square where we're bringing 40 to 50 minority vendors into Market Square during the arts festival, so they get kind of to leverage the access to these kind of national class artists, but we're putting them in a public space and providing them access to the clients that are coming in from around the region. So providing exposure. Those efforts to us are kind of baby steps, but also helping us to build some credibility in our community as a valued partner. The last thing I'll touch on is we have, similar to Gerren's experience, a community that hasn't really embraced kids. We have about 2,200 kids learning every day in our district through K through 12, but we often tell them what they can't do, not what they can do. We don't want you at this street corner. We don't want you in this store. We don't want you, roughhousing here. So we're trying to really come at a place of what can you do. We don't have playgrounds and basketball courts down here, but we do have really cool businesses, and we want these folks to kind of get access to. I'm sorry, my lights just went off. So bringing kids to the table and asking them what they want in their downtown, because we need them to stay. We want them in this region. We want them to feel like this is a part of who they are, and that starts with kind of bringing them to the table. And so for us, that call for support is to outreach individuals and not our police when we're talking about kids. And that's a resource that we have really been advocating for and bringing to the table, because our social service sector was not listening from that perspective and providing that. So it's us kind of engaging the community in interesting ways and bringing the right folks to the table. We're not, magicians, and we don't know everything, but we do know how to make connections. And I think the word partnership in our organization is like every single day and in our DNA. And if you're not a good partner, then you're not a good employee here. So, we talk about that a lot, and kind of our value is that we can convene and bring and talk and facilitate and get stuff done.
Thank you, Jeremy. And thinking more broadly, Jeremy, given your experience and wisdom with bids, because you've done a lot of different things with New York City until what you're doing now. Is there anything that you've learned from all that work that you wish you'd known earlier that you could share with us?
I think I appreciate being the gray-headed guy in the room who gets that question.
Really not why I
the
asked,
old
but...
guy. I think it is that, no one's got this all figured out, that it is as much art as science, and that people really do, you can find some shared goals. Like, I think I would come into a room often intimidated by like, okay, I'm meeting with XYZ, but at the end of the day, hopefully you can find some real shared values and you can actually make an impact. Someone, they said it as in a conversation I was having earlier today, like, oh, I just don't understand, how you do what you do. It must be so frustrating because you just don't get to see things move quickly. And I'm like, well, that's not a real like glass half full kind of way to look at it. But I mean, I think that but for the conversations that we have collectively as an organization, a lot of cool stuff that's happening in the city wouldn't be happening and wouldn't be occurring. So I find that, it can be super frustrating, and you're dealing with, bureaucracy at the corporate, the government, all the levels, but, you can see change, and you can really spark and influence folks in ways that you don't really realize the power that you have, because place matters. And, our downtowns and our commercial districts are what people think about when they think about our cities. And so that experience that we provide to them is super important and more relevant now that, work from home and work from anywhere can happen. So I think it's, we're just tapping the surface of kind of how we have to evolve as organizations and how we can support our communities.
Thank you. And we'll bracket it by, I'll ask Megan the same question. Anything else you wish you'd known earlier?
Yeah, before I joined the board, I really had no idea how many initiatives that the DIA leads and pushes forward. A lot of our work happens quietly and behind the scenes, and you can easily enjoy the amenities of downtown. Things like public Wi-Fi and cheerful holiday decorations, or attend events like the chili cook-off without knowing all the work that goes into making those things possible. And it's all, and Jeremy alluded to this with the partnership, right? It's also a true alliance, and that it requires the partnership of so many entities throughout the city and the county to bring these initiatives to fruition. DIA does a lot of work in-house, but the real power is in our ability to build bridges, and that ultimately allows for a much greater vision and a more vibrant downtown.
Yes. Well, thank you. We've run out of time. Thank you so much, Jesse, Gerren, Megan, and Jeremy, for sharing your time and your insights with us this evening. I know you've all had very busy days, and really appreciate you sharing all that. You have really opened up our thinking about what a bid can be. Wow, who knew a bid could provide services for the unhoused and create wonderful festive events on the same streets. It's just wonderful to hear about all that and know what's possible. So thank you. I mean, we heard that all bids are different and can be tailored to the needs of a particular community. We heard that a successful bid can attract new businesses and customers to an area, creating jobs and generating new revenue and resources for your local economies. We heard that community involvement and decision-making on what the needs are and building partnerships is vital to a bid success. That is one thing I heard loud and clear from all of you. And that people can be inspired to volunteer to be parts of all kinds of programs and services, which turns out to create a sense of community. I saw that in all the kind of exciting events that you all had. And perhaps most inspiring, we heard that a bid can advocate for what the people actually want, filling those gaps between what the government can provide and what the people desire in creating a vibrant downtown, a connected, collaborative, thriving, and inclusive city.